And I was in Racine unit. The sergeant in charge of battalion supply was the battalion scrounge. Now, he had a situation where we went to summer camp. What the heck was it? I think we lost the antenna off of Prick 10.
What is that?
It's a two-way radio. It was called a PRC 10. Well, you never call anything by its name. It was called a Prick 10. Damn thing never held the unit or the stations that you tuned in. You had to play with it all the time. It was a prick. Lost the antenna. As a battalion, you can order lots of new parts. You have to give the old parts. If you lost the entire antenna, you have no parts, you can't order a new one. So here we have a radio, no antenna. Well, I was driving the sergeant around, and he says, oh, swing by such and such a radio shed. We'll pick up an antenna. He went in, arranged to swap. I think he gave him like 6 pounds of coffee and a dozen donuts for the paperwork that said that we'd turned in a broken antenna. Well, once we had the paperwork, then we could get the new ones. He's the one that showed me how to get around all of this stuff. Well, when I transferred up to the unit up in Eau Claire, when you go to summer camp for 2 weeks, you don't have enough equipment. You're borrowing Caterpillars, you're borrowing Jeeps, you're borrowing everything under the sun from the base for your unit. Now, before your unit can go home, you have to turn everything back in. Well, when you're leaving, you turn in not all of their stuff. Your stuff you put on the road because it takes a long time at 45 miles an hour to get back to Eau Claire. So all you keep down there is enough trucks to carry the personnel up that are still necessary. They kept a Jeep. When they went to turn it in, they had not only lost the spare tire, but they had lost the mount on the spare tire. Until everyone signs the paper, it's like getting out of high school. If everybody don't sign the paper, you can't leave. Well, he is stuck down there with over 400 soldiers waiting to go home. He can't leave. This is the battalion commander, because he can't turn in a Jeep to the motor pool, because he can't replace the mount for the spare tire, because all of our Jeeps were already en route to Eau Claire. Otherwise, we would take one of our Jeep and put it on their Jeep and said, here. We couldn't. We were stuck. When I found out what was going on, see, now this is a different sergeant. The one in Racine showed me the ropes. Now we're up in Eau Claire. And I ran into the sergeant and I said, we were supposed to left 2 hours ago. What's the holdup? And he's just kind of, oh, they got problems turning in a vehicle. And then he'd go running off again. Finally, I found out what was going on. I got my supply sergeant and I said, I think I can fix this. Give me the Jeep and I'll go over and try to turn it in. So I took this Jeep that they couldn't turn in, went over to the motor pool, went in, here's a private first class. And I just kind of patiently waited for him to get his stuff done. When he got done, I looked at him and I said, I heard you had some problems with this Jeep over here. He made a few uncomplimentary remarks about certain majors in their leaves and where they could shove them. He didn't accept orders from no stupid officer when he didn't want to. What had happened is they had brought it over him, and he pointed out the fact that the spare tire was missing. They tried to bulldoze him. That's not important, just let it in. And then it almost became an order, and the PFC got his back up. You will either do it by the book or you won't do it. Ken told me the story, and I said, well, I'm the guy on the other end of the stick. I'd like to go home. Army Reserve, you got fair wear and tear. You turned in a uniform, they gave you a new one. Regular Army, they gave you a clothing allowance. So all I did is I pointed out the fact that I could get him 2 new uniforms if he had some old rags laying around. Yeah, he thought that was a pretty good deal, and I said, well, I sure would like to have that Jeep written off so that I could go home. He says, I think I could arrange that. I said, well, why don't you have your flunky kind of hold your desk here and go over and get me 2 uniforms, and I'll go get the paperwork done. Well, I went over and found the supply sergeant, and I said, I need the form /XY whatever for 2 sets of uniforms. And I got this real blank look from the sergeant, and I said, well, if I get a form like that that's properly signed, and the sergeant was the only guy that had to sign it, I said, I think I can turn in a Jeep real sudden like. It's the first time I've ever seen first lieutenants and master sergeants digging through a 5-ton truck trying to get out a typewriter so they could fill out the forms. When we got up to back up to Eau Claire, like the first Wednesday night after that, I got called in the Sergeant Major's office. He wanted to know the story. Well, this is strictly illegal. And I told him, I said, well, we don't have any problem. I said, an officer throw his weight the wrong way and kind of smooth some feathers, and it cost me 2 uniforms. And the sergeant had been around long enough. Yeah, we understand. No more questions were asked. We went back down the next year. Battalion commander wanted some nice little plywood signs put out in front of each unit, so he knew where the units were and properly painted and so forth. We could buy the paint. We were putting up a building, kind of a pole shed thing. Battalion commander was, well, just take some of that plywood. They had it figured out to the square inch how much wood went into this stupid building. I mean, there was no waste. Lieutenant was in a real bind because they don't allow you to bring this stuff on base either. And he popped up and he says, I don't know. And he said, Battalion commander's been on me for 3 days to get some plywood and see signs out. I can't get any. I looked at him and I said, well, give me a 3/4 ton. I'll see what I can do. Army base is just like any other small town. everything sooner or later ends up in the dump. If you're willing to dig around a little bit, you can find anything. And that was the basis of, like, if I would have had more time and needed an antenna, I'd go out to the dump and dig through the dump until I found a piece of antenna. Turn it in and get a new antenna. You can wait for it to hit the dump again, turn it in and get another one. Well, I went out and I got some plywood. And the officer that was in charge was nice enough to point out to the battalion commander that so-and-so went and found this. I was at a dead end, but so-and-so did this. And that's what I called in the battalion commander's office. And he told me, I'm assigned a jeep and I'm assigned a driver. Any time that you want a jeep and a driver, you just check with the sergeant major, and if I have nothing on, that I need him, you can take him any place on base that you like to. This made me official battalion scrounge. From that point in time, I never did nothing I didn't want to. I would go over and look at the training schedule, and it would say firing 50 caliber on range 17. I would go see the sergeant major, and I'd say, gee, I sure would like to fire 50 caliber today. And he'd say, fine, you're on the list. And I'd jump on the truck, and I'd go out and fire 50 caliber machine gun all day. 2 days later, I'd find out that they were doing demolitions on range C. And I'd go in and see the sergeant major and say, boy, I sure would like to be a demolitions man. And they'd send me out to demolition school. I have fired expert with a BAR, with a M14, an M1, an M1 Garand carbine, a 38 caliber revolver, a 48 caliber automatic, and a grease gun. I have fired the old bazooka. I have watched them fire 8-inch artillery, 105 millimeter artillery. I had a ball. Most fun that you could have, though, is 1 week you went into the field and they had what they called the aggressor unit. It was all done with blanks and M50s and so forth. Because I was always on the shooting range and so forth, I knew the people in the ammo dump, and I got assigned to the aggressor unit. Told the sergeant we needed some blanks and so forth. He just kind of gave me a form. He says, okay, you've gone over and requisition what you need because you're aggressor. And I went over there and saw the guy at the munitions dump. I need so many M50s and I need so many of this. And I looked at him and I said, do you have any neat shit around here you want to get rid of? He says, I got a rocket I've been carrying on inventory for the last 3 years. He said, I'd just love to get rid of it. He said, I got no idea what it is. He got out the stupid manual for it. It says, rocket for simulated rocket or tactical rocket attack. The stupid thing was a little over 3 feet long. It had a rail that you sat it on. And the controls were real, kind of like a model airplane, but not. You could set the control surfaces and then it seemed to have a timer on it. Or I don't know if it was when the weight shifted, it would maneuver different. Well, they were coming out of the field and I had this spot. Well, it was very simple, they said, set the rail in such and such a direction. Okay. when you set the control surfaces XYZ,
Come on, speed it up.
it will launch.
As I remember, the rocket went the wrong way.
No, the rocket went too damn far. Anyway, the rocket was supposed to go like, 10 yards off the ground.
Uh-huh.
It would go up to 40 yards and dive back down. So it would do this.
Mm-hmm.
Our battalion comes down the stupid road, okay? I wait for them to all get lined up, because they come down the road. They had to make a curve. I'm over here kind of sitting on a hill. And we shot that stupid rocket right straight down the road. I mean, we got all these military vehicles coming at us. They scattered just like quail. Well, along about quarter, half mile down the road, there's this hill. Okay, now, logical, you shoot a rocket that's supposed to go, it should impact on that hill, right? It didn't. It got down to that hill and it just kind of went, yep, right over the top of the sucker. And the road comes along and goes around the hill and goes straight again. Well, that rocket went up over the top of that hill, and I looked at the guy I was with, and I said, we got to find out where it went so we don't start a fire someplace. We went barreling down that road. Came around the corner. Here's another battalion. I mean, they had buried these suckers. They weren't, on alert or anything else. They were just coming, well, like you follow cars down the highway. And all of a sudden, this rocket comes. They were in the ditch. They were in the trees. They were every place but where they should be. And there was an officer there that was absolutely hostile. I mean, willing to kill. If I ever, I am going to find out where that. And I sat right there and I looked him right square in the eye and I said, our unit's on the other side of the hill, same damn thing happened to us. And I helped him pull trucks out of the ditch.
And you didn't get reprimanded?
They never figured out who did it.
Great story to tell your children.
Oh yeah? You want to tell them about how you used to wipe out your motorcycle? How you got scars on one leg?
No. I have to ask your mama then.
Her mama don't know neither.